Now we're going to talk about your personality test. Excellent. Everybody's got their numbers done. Okay, now I'm going to teach you about it. So this is the Disc Avengers chart. You'll see these empty blocks here. These empty blocks are for new characters like Miss Marvel and others that I haven't plugged in there yet. I moved it around recently. What I like to do is take polls of people who've had the training to figure out where we should put the Avenger characters. Does anybody have a favorite Avenger or one that they think they identify with?
I like the Hulk, sir.
Good to go. Thank you for saying that. All right, so what I'm going to do now is tell you what the D, the I, the S, and the C mean. D, I, S, and C. They do not stand for any specific words, but they stand for many words. So if you're on the top, or excuse me, you're on the left side, then you are a task-oriented person. Okay, that's what that means. So if you're a D or a C, you're task-oriented. This means, and if you're on the right side, you're people-oriented. What this means is, if you're task-oriented, you're the kind of person that the first things you think about and focus on in the day are getting stuff done. You then look back at your day at the end of the day and you value how good the day was by how much crap you got done. Okay? If you're a people-oriented person, you wake up in the morning, you have the same job, the same role, same name, same identity, but you think about the people you're going to see that day, your friends you're going to work with. And at the end of the day, you value how many people you saw, not even how many, but just the time you spent with your friends and the conversation and relationships you have, the value of them. Were they good conversations? So that's the difference between a task and a people-oriented person. Then there is an outgoing person versus a reserved person. What other words could I use in personalities that you may have heard before related to outgoing and reserved? Oh, that's a good one. Very good. Those are actually accurate. That's consistent with what's up here, assertive and passive. What did you say? Those are the ones I was looking for. This is not a direct overlap. This side, if there was a diagonal line from here to there, is your extroverts. And these, if the diagonal line was through it, is your introverts. So outgoing means that you're assertive, that you can be assertive or aggressive, but you take initiative and you walk up to someone and you start a conversation, okay? Whereas introvert means that you get your energy from being by yourself, but you still might walk up to someone and start a conversation. You're a confident introvert. So you have this section here in this triangle that is like a confident introvert. Okay, so in the same way, you could be a sort of a shy or a timid extrovert. Like you really like being time with people, but you just have a hard time walking up and making new friends. But you still want to spend time with people. All right, and you get energy from people. That would be this little triangle right here, which would be a extrovert who is reserved. I know it sounds funny. What I like to say about outgoing and reserved is this. You're standing in line. Imagine that you're standing in line at Walmart and the person in front of you has a t-shirt on the back of it, it says something that you recognize with. It's your favorite thing and it's funny and you love it. And you're reading this shirt and you're standing there in line, a long line, and you're like, oh gosh, that's funny. If you're the kind of person who taps them on the shoulder and makes a new friend and says, I love your shirt, then you're probably an outgoing person. If you're the kind of person who stands there, smiles to yourself, laughs, and doesn't dare touch them, bother them, or acknowledge that you like their shirt, you're probably a reserved person. Okay, so think about who you are and what you would do in that situation. So now let's look at some words that associate with the D type. Starting with the D type, they are decisive, they're dominant, they're directive, they're dogmatic. That means like if they get into an argument, they're like a dog to the bone, they won't let it go. They demand their right, and they'll win that argument. Even if it means losing a friend, they will win the argument. They're also defensive when they're wrong. They're caught in a mistake. Oh, no, I'm not wrong. They will be like that initially. And they may come back 24 hours later and acknowledge in a very cryptic way that they acknowledge that some of what they said was not entirely accurate. But they don't like to be wrong, okay? It's very important to a D type to not be wrong, but also not just not to be wrong, but it's to not win. It's always about winning. Okay, so think about those super achievers. Then we have the I type. They're inspiring. They're influential. They are impromptu and impulsive. They can do things. Drop of a hat. I can say, hey, you, Seaman Timmy, I want you to teach a class on shining boots to everybody right now. Okay, no problem. I get up here. Here's a boot. I don't have any training in this, but I did learn at basic how to shine a boot. And boom, they're teaching you how to shine a boot because you told them to do it and they have no problem being in front of people. That's I types. They love being in front of people. They will take every opportunity. Ooh, me, I can lead the group. That's the I type. All right. So think about that if you have a high I score. They are often actors. That's the professions they go to. The most common, most extreme I types become talk show hosts like Oprah and Dr. Phil. Even though he's a doctor, he's an I type. Okay. So then you have S types. S types are very, very special people. They're steady. They're supportive. They're sensitive. They make good subordinates. They're also submissive. They'll allow people to push themselves around and they'll take orders, which sometimes can backfire on them because it can hurt their self-esteem. But they might sound a little shy, right? But they're also very strong. Who is the strongest Avenger? I love it. So who said Thor? Yeah. What? So why do you say Thor?
Welcome. Voice activation required.
I don't think we've
Thor.
ever had Hulk
Access
Avenger
denied.
Oh, we did?
Thor,
as Bruce
son of
Banner,
Odin.
right? Yeah.
Access denied.
God of Thunder.
Access denied.
Oh, okay.
Strongest Avenger.
Access denied.
Yeah, but is it strength that picks up the hammer? Because we know the mighty Thor isn't a very strong woman. In fact, she's dying of cancer and she could pick up the hammer. So, is it strength that picks up the hammer? It's worthiness. So, that's because at some point he must have become worthy, right? So, anybody see Ragnarok? MCU answers this question.
Voice
What is the
activation
answer?
required.
Who's the
Banner.
strongest Avenger?
Welcome, strongest Avenger.
Oh, what?
All right, the Hulk is the strongest Avenger. He loves people. Deep down inside, the Hulk is also Bruce Banner. They are the same person at different states. And Bruce Banner loves his friends and he loves his partners, whoever they may be. And if he had children, he loves them, which of course now we know in She-Hulk he has a son. So he loves people. Deep down in his heart, he loves. And if you mess with the people he loves, what happens? Anger, and you get the Hulk. It isn't making him angry. It's making him angry by hurting the people or threatening the people you love. That's the motivation for the Hulk. So the Hulk is a very powerfully strong, internally strong character, as well as physically strong. So if you find yourself in the S category, I want you to think about that. Now, I'm not going to put you on the spot. S's don't like to be put on the spot. So now we talk about the C types. This is a cautious, calculating, collegiate, compliant, computing, but they can also be considered cold, cool, calm, and collected, but cold, like unemotional type people. These are college professors, all right, scientists, not necessarily doctors, although some become doctors. They're just doctors that don't have very good bedside manners, okay? Usually they become brain surgeons and spinal surgeons, which are actually in the same related field. And who is a spinal surgeon that's on this? Doctor Strange, the perfect example of a C type. But next to him, very close, I used to have Vision down in here, but then the WandaVision came out. It became clear Vision he's evolving, right? So Vision is also an excellent example of a C type, right? Because what is Vision? What is he? He's a computer, exactly. He is an android of some kind. He's a cybernetic being. So he's learning how to have emotions, but emotions aren't normal to him. So he thinks very logically through everything. This is the C type. Now, You'll see this square in the middle and everybody's gray. Notice the color, the DS, the IC, the SD, the CI, it's all gray. This is a fifth personality grouping we call the level personality. They don't really have a title. I sometimes call them the other, put an O in the center. And they are people who are evenly balanced between two opposites or evenly balanced between three. You may find yourself that you're evenly balanced between three categories. No one is really ever evenly balanced between four, but or you're a complete split, 50-50, and that's me. I am a 50-50. I am an IC cross, primarily I. Right now I'm in my I because I'm up here talking to you, but when I go home, I go back into my C, and I'm all fastidious and like to work on projects, engineering things by myself quietly. All right, really weird. Introvert, extrovert split there. But we all have at least one, usually two, and sometimes even three different communication styles or personalities. So would anyone like to share what they are? CD. Oh, excellent. Oh, very good. So primarily a C. And how high is the C score?
31.
Yep, that's pretty good. And how high is the D?
28.
That's high enough. Okay, you see there's a midline. It has to be above the midline to consider it. And then there's another line up there higher. If you're above that line, the odds are that's what you are. Okay, if you're above 32 or 34 or higher, that's what you are. Okay, you're clearly that. So in this case, yeah, a C and a D. What is your S and I, if you don't mind?
My S is a 25, and my I is a.
And so you round down with the S to 24. And you round up with the C to 32. And yeah, your I is a 16. You're definitely in no way, shape, or form anything like an I, which leads me to believe that your primary personality is your C type. Okay. CD, that means that if you don't mind me using, you do mind me using, is that okay? All right. So C's you don't usually mind, especially D's don't mind. This means that most of the time he's very analytical. He thinks about things. He observes things. He asks questions. He wants to understand the engineering of things. My son is 2.5. He walks around picking things up and going. He's definitely got that C characteristic. I mean, he takes things apart. He loves puzzles. He'll obsess about making sure the puzzle is done, okay, and everything is in the right place, even though he's only 2.5, right? That's a C type characteristic coming out there. His mother is a very high C, and I'm a secondary C, so that's probably where he gets it from. So these are excellent analysts, engineers, scientists. But the D type is somebody that can take charge. So what would happen if we're in a room and there's no D type in the room? He's going to take charge. Doesn't matter the rank of people, this group, there's something happening, an emergency, there's nobody in the room. Somebody is going to have to say, I'm going to have to flip the switch, and I'm going to have to exercise my D, and I'm going to have to take charge. Now we have Chief here who's been trained to take charge, and he may do that, but that may not be his natural personality. And so, mind telling me your name? Smith. So Smith, it's his natural personality to say, there's an absence of leadership, and I'm going to step into that vacuum, and I'm going to flip the switch, and I'm going to become a D. I'm going to say, you go here, you go there. Anybody ever see the television show Lost? Okay. Does anybody remember the opening scene of the show Lost? What happens?
Jack takes charge.
Bingo. What is Jack? He's not just a doctor. What kind of doctor is Jack?
Brain surgeon.
He's a brain and spinal surgeon, yes. And a brain and spinal surgeon must take charge in the operating room, or people die in seconds. People die, or they're permanently paralysis, right? He wakes up in a bamboo forest. He has a piece of bamboo stuck through his side. He pulls it out, clinches it off. He goes up and he sees a running engine, and somebody gets sucked into an engine, and he sees total chaos, and he immediately starts demanding everybody do what he says. And within 24 hours, he's established himself as the leader of the whole community. That is because his default is to flip that switch and become a D. That's not actually his natural. He probably is more of a C or an S type when you get to know him. But he flipped that switch and he became the D when he needed to be. So remember, you got that. It's a good thing. Anybody else a D? Anybody a high D? Isn't that something? There are, I think I had 19 on the list. What are there, 17, 18 of you? And there is no actual D that's primary D in here. Usually, only 10% of a community are D types. Only 10%. Never higher than 10%. Sometimes lower. Why is that? Why do you think we only have 10% of this take charge personality? Exactly. Too many roosters, not enough hens. Not everybody can be in charge. Too many chiefs, not enough warriors. Funny thing does happen, though, that could be nurture or nature, and we don't know, is in a household where neither parent has any D characteristics and they have their first child, do you know what usually happens? The child takes over. All right. Anybody ever see the cartoon Bob's Burgers? Who is the boss in the family? Louise. She is the boss. She is the youngest. They have an excellent example of the personalities. Believe it or not, Dad is also a D, but he's a subdued DS cross. Okay, he's a DS cross. So he is subdued most of the time. He doesn't exercise his dominant D personality. So Louise is actually his protege. Whereas, what is the boy? He is an I. And what is the mom? I. The boy is the mom's protege. And then what's the little girl's name? I can't remember. Tina. What is Tina? She's a C and also an S. That's right. So speaking of how couples work, I'll just use mine as an example. Remember, I told you I'm a primarily I, secondary C. My wife is an evenly balanced CS. It all depends on where she is. If she's at work, she's a nurse, she's a C. Very unemotional. She's going to do the right thing and take care of the patient. She's going to fill out all the documents and be completely compliant to instruction and have read all instructions. She comes home, she becomes an S. She just wants to melt into the couch and hold her toddler and just be gentle and happy, right? S, okay? So we all have those kind of blends. And like I say, I've covered D. Anybody was an I? Was anybody in here an I? Okay. Do you have a musical, artistic, or theatrical outlet?
I play the trumpet
Tell me about the trumpet and the saxophone. Were you in your high school band?
I was in middle school band.
Middle
dropped
school band.
out because the teacher only had like 5 students, and she
I'm
wasn't giving
sorry.
us
Small
enough
school.
to
Yeah.
work with. So I dropped out. Picked up trumpet at last command and started playing.
Excellent. Please come and talk to me afterwards about our music fellowship. She has no problem playing her instrument, right?
Just started, so
Yeah, but what I mean is you're willing to throw yourself out there and do it, and you know other people will hear you, right? Okay. Oftentimes, I types are musicians, comedians, actors. Okay, they have no problem being in front of people speaking out loud. She spoke loud enough to be heard and confident. That's pretty typical of an I type. Okay, what would I types be good for in the Navy? MC. That's one rate. Yes, as far as rates, you're absolutely right. What would they be good for on a team? How would we utilize an I? Morale building, getting the message out, spreading the word of what's going on. So maybe you want to volunteer when we finally start putting this out as your morale, welfare, and recreation petty officer to tell your probably duty section about what's going on. Okay, getting that out, motivating the crew. We need those people, right? And everyone can be a leader, so that can be a leader as well. S-type, my favorite. We talked a lot about this earlier. Is anyone here willing to admit they're an S-type? Great. Two. Yeah, I kind of thought you were, Chief. You're S? Okay. Chief, do you mind if I use you? Okay, ask you questions? Okay. What was your secondary? SC. Okay. And What are your hobbies? What is your hobby? What's your number one thing? Do you like to do these things by yourself in total solitude? No.
Just video games.
Okay. But even when you're playing video games, you're playing online with other people? Okay. Do you have a best friend? Okay. And if we had a party and there were 200 people there, or if you had the option to go hang out with your best friend instead, which would you choose? Exactly. Or just 2 or 3 friends, right? Okay. So S types are people who they are a mile deep and an inch wide compared to, when I say inch wide, I'm talking about their social network is usually 2 to 3 to 5 people. Okay. That's their closest people. And those 2 to 3 to 5 people, they have deep relationship bonds. Okay. Whereas an I type, what do you think the difference is with an I type? They're a mile wide, but not often deep. Okay. Do we all need at least 1 or 2 deep relationship? So guess what happens to the I type when they want that mile deep relationship? Where do they gravitate? What personality type? The S type. If you look at, pardon me for using you again, but you're an I type, so I should be able to, right? If you look at your friends list and you go, that one and that one are my best friends, you will discover that they are S types. 9 times out of 10, they're going to be S types, more than that, actually. Every time I've ever looked at somebody, I just loved them and they were my best friend. They were S's, okay? So, S types also stands for spouse. Because no matter who you are, no matter what personality you are, no matter how extreme D type you are, you can bond with an S type. Anyone and everyone can bond with an S type, okay? That doesn't mean you go around just looking for S's. You might be the S yourself. A relationship between 2 S's is a wonderful marriage. Then we go to C types. Anybody here a C type? We got 1. Anybody else? So that means we probably have a bunch of S types here. Does anybody want to tell me who they would say, now that they know their personality, their Avenger is? Who's your Avenger? I mean, it could be cliche. You could be the Hulk, right? You like the Hulk, but that's not your personality, is it?
I'm an S.
You are an S. Okay. What would you say?
I guess Black Panther.
Black Panther, you like Black Panther. You don't have to be CD. See, that you're thinking like a C. You look at it and you go, C. Here's what I would say. You could be anybody in either of these categories. Which one do you want to be?
Honestly,
Mm-hmm.
probably Captain America or
All right.
Nick Fury.
So Captain America wiggles around on here. Captain America, originally when I started doing this test, he was a CD. But then when we got to Endgame and we did the test again, people go, who in the world would have the patience to live in a basement of a house for 50 years just so they could be with the person they love and never go out? Who would have an S type? An S type would say, I love her. I have no problem. So he has his D qualities when he gets up there and starts telling people what to do. We see that in the first Avengers movie. But he is, deep down, he's an S. Okay, so that's why we moved him to DS. But does that mean that you can't be it? No, of course not. You could be Captain America. That's my favorite as well. Anybody? Anybody have another favorite they say after seeing this? Huh?
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man. Excellent choice. Yes, excellent choice. Notice that he is the mirror image of Iron Man. They were raised completely the opposite, but their personalities are extremely similar. The difference is the way they were raised. One was raised in a humble upbringing in a little apartment, poor, where his only mother figure takes care of the homeless. The other, lap of luxury, spoiled brat, right? That's the real difference between them. As we see Tom Holland's Spider-Man develop and grow, we will begin to see Tom Holland's Spider-Man, particularly Tom Holland's Spider-Man, develop into being the guy who was given the glasses called Edith, right? Remember Edith? He will be, because Iron Man knew that he was his successor. He knew that they were of the same ilk, the same personality, and he adopted him. So, your character may not be up here.